Afternoon, councillors. This meeting will be live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities, and recordings of the council meeting or parts thereof not be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused, or transmitted without the prior written consent of the general manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on council's website, and any persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people, and respects the history and culture of the elders both past and present. We have a leave of absence which was initiated by Councillor Watt to cover the period up till the 18th of March. Can I have a mover and second for that, please? Councillor Tucker and Councillor Hayden, all in favour? And I assume that Councillor Kim at the moment is running late, and same with Councillor McCarthy. Is there anyone know if anyone else if that's anything except the case? Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest? No declarations. Item 4, it's not confirmation minutes, that has already been done by the whole of council. However, I will call for any business arising from those minutes. Any business arising? No. Right. Reports of decision, item 5.1. Tender 2023/3, fixing local roads grant, round 4, Arkstone Road rehabilitation. The recommendation is that we nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166B of the Local Government Regulation 2005 for both full service stabilisation and or partial stabilisation services options to assist in delivery of these works in accordance with tender T223/3. On completion of the mandatory 21-day period, a further report will be provided to council for award of the tender determination. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tremblay. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to endorse the recommendation being a part of our guidelines and what we do regarding the tender costs.
Another councillor. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question relating to the total on page 24. It's a similar question to what I've asked on a couple of previous occasions on other projects. Whenever we get information, it always, from my recollection, it always shows 200 millimetres of gravel. And particularly on a road like ours, that to me, that seems incredibly thin. I would have guessed that on the road, if we're following the Australian standard pavement design, I would have guessed it would come out to about 500. And I just want to be reassured that we are designing our pavement to the Australian standard, and if we're just waiting on that pavement design, and if it does come out more than 200, how is that going to impact on how much of that length of road we can get done?
Well, for the chair, this was done just as a preliminary basis in terms of applying for the funding in the transport. We have it, and it is very preliminary stage. We're going to carry out as you said, hopefully on the coming summertime, and the preliminary design will be done prior to the agency of the contract or prior to the contract.
Right, so
That's
and I accept that answer. That's fine. The second part of the question is, if the process comes out to show that we need significantly more than 200 millimetres, is that going to impact on
then we will have to revisit our scope of work and whether it would that, but that fits into our allocated budget or not.
Yeah, okay.
Fully understand it. We obviously intending and using for the corporation inside from the pits. So yes, the component would be around what we export and winning the material. However,
I don't expect that it would be overly significant, but there is a factor there in, I suppose, a whole lot of that $3 million of funding to cater for any potential offset that we need at that time.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add, plus we couldn't comply with the funding, the requirement, they possibly, I have to revise the bid. They possibly wouldn't allow us to restore the entire payment, of the upgrade.
Yeah, and that was the point I was making, that if my guess is correct, and it might not be, but if it is significantly more, then we might have to reduce the scope of works
Yeah.
and how that might be impacted, or does it impact our funding?
That's right, yeah, plus the way the price, I think, the moment air put down 9 kilometer, maybe at the end of the year, 9 kilometer would be possible, we have to put it down to.
Okay, so I would suggest in future we might have to start off allowing a bit more, and if it turns out that the payment design comes out thinner, then we've had a win. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is not specifically in relation to,
Sorry, and I was just going to ask, any reason why you were late? And any apology for it?
I apologize.
Thank you. Let's go on.
I had a matter on the minutes, but I can't raise it now. The minutes actually noted that there had been an approval for the bridge over the O'Connell River, which wasn't correct. It does note that in the minutes.
Minutes were accepted by council as a whole, and
That's
they
right.
were accepted
Yes, okay, but there is an incorrect statement in there.
and noted.
We do a lot of this stabilisation works, and we do a lot, and we're going up. Is there no possibility, so that we don't have to go out to tender all the time, request for tenders all the time, to have a panel or a standing offer with a number of companies in relation to stabilisation work? Because you're making the previous minutes, and we go out invariably. Now, as I understand, if we go out with an RFT for stabilisation works exceeding 250,000, right, that can be a standing offer arrangement with a number, so that we don't have to keep, because it takes your time and other people's time in council to keep going out for these tenders, requests for tenders. And I'm just wondering if we can do this in a much simpler way.
Through the chair. Probably 5.2 and 5.3 and 5.4 attempt to try and do that, but we'll leave that at that point in time. When you have a specific grant fund, and I'm sure that the engineers will back me up on this, there are sometimes need to do this on an ad hoc basis because of the particular project in which we're getting money for. So we go down that path because it's a guaranteed spend rather than a potential spend. So it's over 250,000 for this project, which is why we need to make a call on that regard.
So if we had a panel, which we'd gone out for an RFT, will stabilisation services be provided to council and Parker stabilisation services, would we then not be able to go to one of those companies each time if they've already given us their rates? Are we getting better rates for doing these projects than just having a standing offer? Because we've met the requirements, we've gone out with an RFT because we anticipate projects of more than 250,000.
Yeah, so through the chair, we did do a tender, you may recall.
Yes.
Full stabilisation services, and that was up to a value of around 250,000. So this being specific to a new grant fund, and because it's such a substantial amount of money that we're talking about, then it puts us in, or triggered a point in the local government act where we need to go and re-tender. I wish it was as easy as being able to either join on to an existing contract or, as you say, have a panel, but because a one-off needs to be treated with that respect in terms of putting it out to tender. I could either go to select or open tender, but in this case, we're saying.
Could I ask this to be investigated, because I'm not sure, I think there is provision as long as you go out for an RFP and meet the requirements, because it's over 250,000, and you could do it as a standing offer, have a number of companies there. And they've given you your rates, they've given you everything, and you can say, if you, in it, you could say, if we give you more than X number of work, what is your rate going to be, so that you have a reduction, so if they get $1 million in work, you could actually do that in the RFP you set out initially. I think you could do this, and I think it'd save a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of resources, because it seems to me that Chris's team spends a lot of time, and you only got to look at this. And I think in a number of these things, you have that option, and I do think a number of other councils might do it that way.
Through the chair, more than happy to investigate. The thing that I'm trying hard to try and get an understanding on is, if we go for an RFP, that's usually a suite of work that you then guarantee, and I don't know whether we have that capacity, and that then may in fact increase our costs, whereas this is known money that we have to do, and therefore as a specific project, they may better and say, well, no, I'm getting this, I'm gonna compete for it, rather than an option, but more than happy to go away and investigate.
On the other side of that, if the company has to completely, 4 or 5 times in a year, have to keep responding by tendering against an RFP, that time and resources those companies are eating up, and you know whether that money is put back into whatever the tender pricing is. So I'm not sure which would be the better, but I just know that it costs companies money to tender, as it costs us money to send an RFP.
Anyway, I think you made a really good point there, and gentlemen agreed that we need to investigate that.
Thank you, just following on from Councillor McKibben, we could maybe look at a similar standing contract agreement like we have for Surly for stabilisation. We already have one in place for Port Hagen, don't we, for Surly.
Yeah, that would be.
Might be worth looking at a similar arrangement.
Through the chair, that's the first place I'd go to see what that would look like, because you're exactly right. We put out a survey, but without any guarantee on what that could look like. So that's possibly the way to do
The
it.
difference is with sealing, we select one tender. Whereas what Councillor McKibben is asking about is having a panel.
Yeah, I understand.
A bit like our
The same question
Yeah.
has come up before when we were selecting a panel for one of the previous tenders. I can't remember which one it was. And I asked basically exactly the same question, that if there is a specific project that comes up where the cost of the payments to a vendor just for that one project are likely to exceed 250,000, then yes, we would have to call individual tenders. And I think the basis of it is that if it is left to choose a contractor out of the panel and it exceeds 250,000, that there is potential or possible perception of how do you prove that
You haven't paid it.
that you haven't favoured or there's no corruption.
So through chair, in this particular instance, the reason why the tender is we know it's going to be over 250,000, which is why we set it aside for one individual project. But I'm happy to take it on notice to see whether we can try and work something out, or whether that works, because if no one wants to reduce the cost of tenders, like council will hear this. I think 6 or 7 tenders that we're looking at today. We're trying to, but it's a matter of how does that work?
The alternative is, if you want to select one to do all our stabilisation work, then you say, you could, in your RFT, as I said before, you can actually say, right, what's your price if you get this value of work, what's your price if you get this value of work, what's your price? If someone comes back and that's your and Chris evaluates, and that's by far the best tender, you can select that company to do anything up to 5 million, because you've got all the evidence.
Could we just move on and vote with this and then bring that conversation to the maybe?
Okay, I'm working for, I'm happy with, we've got to the end of it.
Yep.
Gentlemen, you got everything you need there to.
Yeah, I think between us, we should be able to nut out something.
All right, I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 5.2, tender 2023, Black 5 gravel trucking services. The recommendation is we nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166B of the Local Government Act 2005 for gravel trucking services in accordance with tender P 2020/4. Is it 2024 or 2027? That's 5. Okay. Yep. On completion of the mandatory 21-day tender period, a further informative report will be provided to council for the award of tender determination. All right, mover and second, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, part of local government regulations or tenders. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben.
Thanks, Phil. I'm more than happy to second this comment made previously, and I just wonder if, because these services provided for a number of councils, the JO has nothing in place for trucking services.
I pretty clear, no. It's what in time and
Okay. Yes, I'm more than happy to second it.
Councillor Tucker.
I think it was just another little point about the tender number that says the 2020 /4, and we changed that to 5, but should it be 2023?
Anyone else? I'm also going to change one other word. It is not an informative report that comes back for the council to make a tender determination. It's a further report. I'll talk about informative. I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 5.3, tender T 2023/4. Supply, delivery and laying of asphalt road surfacing. Nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166B of the Local Government Regulation 2005. The supply, delivery and laying of asphalt services for a 3-year period commencing on 1 May 2023 to 30th of June 2026 in accordance with the tender T 2023/4. On completion of the mandatory 21-day tender period, a further report will be provided to the council for award of the tender determination. Mover and seconder, Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. You don't have that much more.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm more than happy. I was just going to ask the questions on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm more than happy to move this recommendation. I again thought the JO had a asphalt one out there. Is that not the case? I thought we actually endorsed with it, been part of it, but was it a different quality asphalt?
no, through the chair, that's a bitumen emulsion contract, you know.
Right, so this is heavy asphalt.
This is that, well, that's only concrete, yeah,
Yeah.
the hot mix is the other term for it. Yeah.
Hot mix, right. So that's why the JO doesn't have one for hot mix, but they do have the standard one.
Yes, again, through there, the emulsion is the supply of the paved line or the depot that you see. That's the liquid emulsion into the depot. This is completely different and
It's a hard surface.
that in the spray field, it is, yeah. hot mix.
Okay, I'm more than happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, happy by regulation.
Any other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 5.4. Oberon Council Annual Paint Contractor Hire Tender 2023/24. Tender 2023/6. The recommendation is that council nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166A of the Local Government Regulations 2005 for the provision of paint contractor hire services for the next 12-month period. That's tender 2023-6. At the conclusion of the tender period, all information will be assessed and the report will be put to the next available ordinary meeting of council seeking endorsement of the annual paint hire contractor panel for 2023-2024 financial year. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tremblay. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
And Councillor Tremblay.
Question, Mr. Mayor, if I could. There's no actual prescription in the Local Government Act that this tender only had 12 months duration, is it?
Through the chair, no, there's not.
Why can't we do this for 3 years to save us to have it continue coming back?
Through the chair, look, certainly you could do that. There's no, as I say, there's no point that we can't not do that. It's really only if there is a new opportunity that comes along that wants to join the panel, that I've been doing it every 4 months, but.
Well, I'm happy to go 2 years. I'm just thinking again that this is, God, I don't know how many of these we endorsed while we're here. We get the same, I think for the last 4, we've all had the same companies, haven't we, basically?
Yeah, through the chair, but certainly trying to attract all local contractors, of course, and far and wide. So the more we can get onto like an e-procure system that they can get notified, then yeah. But you're right. Certainly, there's a multitude of companies that have been with Oberon Council on that for several years.
Could I therefore propose an amendment there to parent 1, that the wording be exactly the same, except the last line, which it says for the next 12-month period, be for the next 36-month period. Yeah, I'm happy to do 2 if someone wants.
Why don't it just bring up as an indeterminate council so that it's not affecting.
So 2 years will be within the term of council. All right, I'll make it 24 months.
Just to make it feel a little like that.
Yes, that's right.
See if we need to change the second paragraph or.
Well, it's 2023, 24, 2024, 25 financial year. That is the 2.
You have to change the word annual.
What would say?
Just a minute.
So in 2, I'd suggest in the second line, deleting the word annual. And in the third line of the recommendation 2, for the 2023-24, for the 2023-2024 and 2024-25 financial years.
All right, are you happy? You happy with that now?
I am happy with it.
Clarify point 1 was the next 24-month period. you could say.
That's correct. Yeah.
Now, do you think?
Any comment?
And then there'll be a
Well,
question underneath in the
All
third paragraph that's listed here, the next 12-month period, 1st July 23 to June.
So you'll move the amendment, I have a second for that. Councillor Chamber.
I think Councillor Clemmer might have seconded the initial resolution.
Oh, you did.
Yes.
Councillor Gray.
Sorry.
All right,
Just
I'll put the amendment as described.
Some debate on it.
Sorry.
Yes.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question that if we go that way, we would have to be clear about whether you would then include some sort of rise and fall clause in it to cover that, whether it was 2 years or 3 years. Because if we don't do that, we run the risk that in early part of that period, tenderers are going to load their prices up because they don't know how much costs are going to rise within the period.
CPI.
Through the chair, certainly that's what we do on the bitumen filling contract, right before, now with diesel, plastic and oil for another in the emulsion. So not unlike that, I could support that.
So I don't know if that needs to be included in the wording or if we can just take it as read that.
Through the chair and happy to support what council is trying to put down. Only comment, what if new contractors become available within that 12-month period? Do they miss out on the 2 years, or is there a review period you'd like to see after 12 months to allow new tenderers to enter?
Could you add to clause 166 council to review after a 12-month period, adding into that?
Or through the chair, that then defeats the purpose of having it there. all I'm asking is that would council be happy if we put a review period after 12 months? And if any new tenderers, you could then review those tenderers without going down the path of doing the whole lot.
I'm happy for that, but I just on the history, I don't believe we've had many new ones.
That's fine, and maybe that's something we bring back as part of the report.
I can just add to that, that we have had some drop off, and I don't know whether that's because when we entered into like e-procure from Tenderlink, that may have occurred, the transition, and although we've done the same sort of advertising, one is trying to get it out there a little more in the marketplace, that e-procure is the place to come. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we can do.
Anyone else? All right, I'll put the amendment, all those in favour? Against? And so I'm checking these against. So the amendment is passed, now recommendation, all those in favour? All those against? Councillor McKechnie is against, the resolution is passed. Right, 5.5, T 2023/6 blank tender, truck and trailer replacement.
Through the chair, just typo again, that T23, can we call it flash 8? Yes.
And up the top.
Yep.
Right, the recommendations of council nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166B of the local government regulation 2005, seeking written tender submissions for one bogey drive truck and tipper and one free-axle tipping trailer truck and dog in accordance with the tender T 2023 April. On completion of a mandatory 21-day tender period, a further report, very informative, will be provided to council for tender dissemination. We're in the second, councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimble, councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation. I just have a question. Is that truck and dog an additional one to the recent one?
To the chair, no.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm happy to second it.
Councillor McKeon.
I'm happy to proceed with this, but I was having some difficulty in looking at this one, and then I thought it appeared in the table on page 45 for replacement next year. And I thought there was a double up, so that's why I was a little hesitant about recommending it when it's also in next year, in page 45 of the board paper, the business page. It's in the table there, I think, the truck and the dog. Is that correct, or am I reading it incorrectly?
Chair, that is correct. When we get through the report 5.8, looking at not just considering when things come, but when they're actually delivered. So this truck and trailer was put in the operational plan for this year, the 2023 operational plan. The anticipated delivery from this is actually 2 years from tender. So when we get to 5.8, it's looking at a staged out process to get prior approval for large purchases.
That's what I thought, because we're after purchases, but we're actually really agreeing to this being purchased by agreeing to this resolution now.
This one was pre-approved in the 22 to 23 operational.
That's right. But it's two separate vehicles. I realise that, but I think this one is also included in the table. Is it not?
It is as
Yeah.
pre-approved. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm happy with it. Let's explain.
Any more? I'll put the motion, all those in favour? I'm just carried unanimously. Item 5.6. P 2023/7 plant tender backhoe replacement. Council nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166B of the local government regulation 2005. Seeking tender submissions for one CCF class 4.5 backhoe loader in accordance with tender T 2023/7 And upon completion of the mandatory 21-day tender period, a further lead informative report will be provided to council for tender determination. Moving second, councillor Hayden, councillor Chittle, councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
I'm happy to second
Any councillors wish to speak to this? Motion, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. 5.7 Capital Works Delivery Program, Progress Update 2022-2023. And the recommendations reported, item 05.7 be received as information. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation report.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you. Now, I'm happy to second it. I do have a couple of queries that relate in relation to the Gantt chart, and there may be just suggestions in the future. If I could. Yes. I note that in the Gantt chart, well, let's deal, if I could deal with the sewage treatment plant, which is on the second page of the Gantt chart and about halfway down. This is a huge project for us. And I would have thought the sub bars for this would have included 1, detailed design, 2, RFT, and 3, construction. We've lumped it all as construction, which I don't think is really what you normally do with a project of this size and of this nature. It's just a suggestion. I've just got to find, but we deal with the O'Connell Road entrance to Oberon tree planting at item, 46, ID 46. I couldn't recall whether that was part, I thought that was part of the pre-master plan. It's separate, is it?
A grant of $18,000.
They didn't. 15,000 grant.
Through the chair, it does form part of your plan,
Yes.
but it's just a different fund.
Okay, so okay.
That's O'Connell.
That's O'Connell Road.
Entrance to
The
town.
entrance.
Local.
Oh,
Okay,
right.
so that's why I was wondering whether it should be grouped with, or I realise it should have a separate line item because it's part of a separate grant with the master plan back on. Probably under the town improvement. Yeah, street, probably street free master plan. Yeah, 18, yes. Anyway, as it's got a separate grant, I suppose it can stand alone, but it's all the same.
Through the chair, that I'm happy to take that on board, but it may be tree master plan as the heading,
Exactly.
and then 3 different sub.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, because it is a separate grant, so it could have a different bar, I understand that. And we haven't, and I know we haven't had the responses on the tender for the environmentally affected roads yet, have we? No, that'll come to the April meeting.
To the chair, look, we've been grappling with that one at the minute. It says the timing, of course, in order to do that, and the reality of risk in not getting contractors with this is how then we can reshuffle our internal resources around them with the timelines of grant fittings, putting sliding things back that have longer opportunity, and bringing our crews forward with this anticipated better than expected autumn weather. So hoping to do that internally, maybe assisted with some contractor assistance if we can affect.
So noting all our, the issues we're having obviously with our capital work delivery because of the previous wet weather and obviously trouble with being contractors and a whole host of things. Better obviously with the good weather now. Have we in anticipation of that? I know there was some we've sought extensions of our grants. should we be doing that with all of them, in particular this one, or have we already?
We have already, we built the avenue and there's no extension to be given on it.
No extension. Well, we are really up against the wall for timing already.
We're against the clock.
Um,
So that's imperative in that discussion, why I sort of brought that back to the table here now. Was the original vision to try tender it and package it,
yeah,
but there's a very rarely a risk that may not occur either way. And then what did that mean? Looking at timing, then try and slide that with internal resourcing. And if we've got more time in the other end there, we have to then try and really package some of that up and get assistance with. But yeah, there can be a combination of both internal and I think still contractors to assist us in the environmental affected road state.
okay, all right, well, I'll leave that. Thank you, I'm happy with it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few questions on the report and the chart. On page 38, it's about Parkstone Road, Round 3. I remember probably getting close to 12 months ago, it was mentioned in one of the ordinary meeting business papers about there's places along that road which are environmentally sensitive. And I remember asking at the time about how we're going to make sure that we're doing that properly and not damaging anything that we shouldn't. And the answer was yes, we'll be doing a proper environmental assessment before we start. So given that that was due to start yesterday, has that environmental assessment been done, and if so, who did it?
Yeah.
And
Through the chair, yeah, we did the environmental assessment last year. We cannot recall the company name, but we have done it there.
could I
Sure,
get a copy?
yeah, sure. Yeah, we can publish the copy in the next council meeting.
Through the chair, there is a section there of that's heavily lined with vegetation and trees, quite significant trees, and that's really from the intersection of Campbell's River Road, around about 3 kilometres-ish due south, and that's probably the real most sensitive area. And we're acutely aware that we can't fully widen it in that area, where we might only get a nominal 7 metres wide. Through that.
And that's a big part of why I was asking the question, that just to make sure that we have completed that assessment, and I'm interested to see what it says about any particular sensitivity there.
Just through the chair, rather than bring it back as a report to council, wouldn't put in the council report.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like it's.
Yeah.
It's on our website, you can just go there and get the assessment. I think Councillor Tucker was talking about current, if an assessment's been done for the next lot of work, is that what you're talking about?
This is round 3.
Right,
Yeah, there's
but the assessment, like we've already got one for that road.
round 3, yes, that's what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the chair, yeah, for 6 kilometres. Under
That was done in 2019.
Well, that was awarded back around.
21 September or October, as far as I remember.
Yeah, as part of that, that includes the first, 6 kilometres, and then round 4, which has been recently announced, which was the tender we're talking about here today. Is in the next section further south of that.
We'll put the report in the port.
Yeah.
Go from there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now, there's several projects that, as far as I understand, they're either current or recently completed or soon to start, which I couldn't find in either the report or the Gantt chart. Maybe I've missed them. Losingham Road, I couldn't find. Oh, yeah, it's in the Gantt chart.
In the Gantt chart.
It wasn't mentioned in the report.
And that's we're going to complete that.
Through the chair, we've got until December 24. This stage, yes, whilst there's been a significant amount of work on the bottom end, which we always envisaged would be quite time consuming. There's a vegetation widening and structures that had to be lifted. I think that we're envisaging to try to put through winter, and that may mean that some of the road will be unfilled during that period. But in order to try to deliver this, coming then again back into spring, we want to be in a position where graveling, trimming and alike can, be fast tracked. Specifically to the bitumen sealing, putting that down. Is where we want to be.
Abercrombie Road Repair Project, and I think that's a different project to the, like, the heavy patching that's been going on with.
Yeah,
And I couldn't find that project in either the report or the plan.
so the chair, there were two components of from the road repair work. First one was the repair project. The second one was the natural disaster work that we have recently carried out. So about 70% of the work recently got completed. Because of the contractor unavailability, we couldn't finish the remaining 30%, but it's been scheduled. And they are scheduled to come back next week, and hopefully we'll be able to start both the repair project component. One of the components was the prior to the Moses Road section, the curve back to the town, and the remaining 10%. So we look forward to complete these two by 15th of March to 26th of March this month.
So the 3 kilometre repair project.
No, it's not, sorry, it's not 3 kilometer. It's one section about that section, Moses before the Moses Road intersection, about 1 kilometer.
Yeah, but are you talking about the
Sorry, I'm talking about the repair program, which regional road repair program to be specific.
Yeah, well, my understanding was that the 3 kilometres being constructed under the repair program.
Actually cannot recall what was mentioned in the past, but that section 1 kilometer and the other one roughly before the flood was roughly about 1.1, so it's not 3 kilometers. It's about roughly about 2 to 2.2 kilometers.
Well,
My mistake. I'll pop that as a mistake, yeah. That's 3 kilometers.
well, but surely even if it's 2 kilometres, there's no way we get that done. If
No,
we had
it's-
started, we wouldn't get it done this month.
As I mentioned through the chair now, we will be able to do one component of the, under the regional road repair program. The other component will be look for contemplating various options that possibly can be done by the asphalt tender, which will be out soon.
Okay, thank you. But look,
Can I just ask, the 3 kilometres of Abercrombie Road repair program, is that something you've taken from a report or something?
I'd have to go back and check.
It's not, I'm not holding you to it, I just, if it was something that we've indicated, I'd like to chase that up and see if it wasn't that, we need to rectify that.
I think I might have got that figure from our budget payments.
We did do 3 kilometres on Edith Road there in the last repair program. Again, I may have said 3 kilometres, and if I did, I have to apologise. However, yeah, certainly because it was running coherently too on the last data of the work. We did 3 kilometres.
Yeah, and the main point of the question was that where we're going to squeeze that in, because whether it's 2 or 3 days, it's a substantial job, and we're running out of warm weather.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And not to mention 22, 23.
Yeah. Yeah,
After that as well.
yeah, by the end of 22, 23, we've already run out of warm weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Cambridge River Road, I couldn't find that in the email.
Yeah, Kevin through this complete now. It was the minor patch repair that was done, what would have been reported through the weekly newsletter, I think, but yeah, so it's sort of gone off the radar now. Definitely.
And also the chart shows Parkstone Road round 4 being constructed in May and June of this year, which seems surprising. And just to check if that's correct, but that's a odd time of year to be doing that, or wouldn't it be more likely to happen when we get back into the next spring?
Yeah, again through the chair, because there's been a significant slide in with the weather. Obviously, when we first got the round 3 funding, is now the challenge down to play a little bit of catch up and hoping again for a favourable winter, like we have had them in the past, where it's not ideal to have open road, but certainly, try and get into a position, not unlike what I mentioned for Lesmount Road, where we can come back in, certainly get into it early spring, to try to bring that forward a bit quicker, faster.
Yeah, I'm just saying that on the second page of the Gantt chart, it shows that it has been under construction during and we're just concerned about that.
Certainly, yeah, it looks certainly the risk that we have, well, but we're acutely aware of for sure, but we are out there now, obviously, with grubbing and roadside clearing, so that's on the bottom end.
Can I just in terms of just clarification, just through, and I think what Council Tucker's trying to say is that under the Gantt chart, there is a level of indication to say that round 4 monies will be spent by June 30, and I think that the expectation from on would be that round 4 would go into 23, 24.
Same with Lowe's Road. Lowe's Road, the same issue there.
I think that that's an issue when you're trying to do with a Gantt chart. That's 1 year when you've got multiple years worth of, but it's a good point, and it's maybe something that we can look at, because I don't want to preempt what we'll talk about next week, but there's certainly a level that we can add to this Gantt chart that gives some more clarity around
And perhaps better covered in the
in the
report.
report itself.
Yeah. And Councillor Blair just pointed out that on the internet, it does mention the repair grant for the road on line 6 of the first page. And it says that Conby Road 30 kilometres.
There is. Yes.
Is another kilometre defined, or
2.2.
we have to make sure we're complying with whatever we apply for?
That needs to be changed to 2.2 kilometres. Sorry, I picked that up, and also that FLR4 with the start and finish time, certainly. When you alter the start and finish date, it can automatically adjust, and I didn't pick that up, so I apologise. The finish date for that particular project is the 1st of February 25.
Final quick question, another small project on our capital works this year is smoke testing program. I wonder if we've made any start on that yet.
Through the chair, there's initial discussions with the joint organisation through the Water Utilities Alliance about council who have an interest in going through a program. I've put my hand up for Oberon Council to participate. I know back in 2013 or thereabout, there was a smoke testing program undertaken. Inherently, I think that given how the gap in time now, that would have to be another one undertaken to better understand firm what we're putting in that report and moving forward with that infiltration process. So there's 2 parts to that. One, the smoke testing, and also we're currently working in another space with telemetry to better understand the flows through the network of sewer at the minute. So dry weather flows versus wet weather flows, and there's a number of mechanisms in doing that, but that's in early stages at this time where we're a pilot council with both Mudgee and Orange. But yeah, I'll bring more information as something.
Given where we are in the year, all our likely to be done this financial year, I would imagine.
No, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's all.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of things, maybe it's on the computer and then suddenly realising the hard copy. If I could, halfway down page 38, I'm wondering if the technical services director just clarify for us the Ninentil Road concrete box culverts and what's happening with the natural disaster funding. To what extent has the Ninentil Road concrete box culverts gone over grant funds, I suppose it was, and to what extent are we seeking natural disaster funding, noting that the Gantt chart shows we're 75% through a natural disaster funding process, I think it is, on item 49.
Yeah, through the chair, we are still in the process with Transport New South Wales and the assessment. So it is pending their assessment, because it wasn't something that was done we've already pulled through the construction phase and some of this flooding occurred. So it'll be at their determination then to how much we can potentially claim back for that project, but just we know
What's our overspend on it? So we got a grant fund for it.
Yes.
What's it actually cost us with also what we've had to rectify on it due to the.
Well, at this stage, we've certainly used the budget allocation that we have. And we've also delved into, as I've mentioned, through that monthly activity reports, the environmentally effective component for Moonville Road and the opposite. We're in the magnitude, certainly beyond the $80,000. Now, in reality, to come back to a final figure, that's going to have to be determined then by what we get out of the natural disaster fund.
So, sorry, but if we get zero out of it, we're obviously over 80,000, you said that, what's your guesstimate? What are we looking at?
At this stage, we're in the magnitude of close to $200,000.
200,000?
Yes.
Okay, so if we have to fund that ourselves, that is a whack on our environmentally effective roads.
Look, again, through the chair, certainly that environmentally effective road has a flexibility in terms of where council spends their money. Whilst it's Noonanville Road did specifically say by Colin, but to get us through and not leave that project stranded, was a decision that had to be made to move that project forward. So that's the.
I realise that, I just wasn't sure of the magnitude. I think the last big one was around 80, not 200.
So through the chair, the 80 was based on, whether when according to plan or not. Now, I think that 3 times it had to be redone, like there's.
I understand that, it's good to know what we're looking at from the figure.
Which is more reason why natural disaster funding is absolutely critical for this project.
My recollection was the 80,000 came out of road maintenance, or was there a grant or was it?
Through the chair, there was. Through the chair, it was out of maintenance. But also the environmentally affected roads section also went to maintenance. If that, so one supplemented the other.
And if I could, the Oberon Treasures basalt walls. I know we put the footings in, and I thought we actually gone back to our stonemason. Got a revise, and because he had some issues, and we got a revised costing for the Oberon Common basalt retaining wall, and he came back to us on the Oberon Treasures basalt wall, or is that not correct? Are we still working out whether we're going with him or not going with him? What's happening there? I'm a bit confused. I don't know if other people are, it's probably just me.
So through the chair, we were equally as not confused as yourself, councillor.
Not confused.
Right. A report will be provided to the March meeting, which highlights a resolution that council made, whereby they, if you can remember rightly, there was a request to use scrap metal funds to supplement that shortfall. Council amended that to say, go away staff when you have your rock solid quote and come back to us with a report and say what that is and what are the appropriate funding processes and sources that we can make. That will come to March.
Right, so we haven't appointed him yet to do this.
We have our quotes and we're looking to move towards that. Yes.
But you need to agree the funding source before you can do that.
That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
In accordance with the review.
Okay, all right, so it's on basically hold because. Okay, so the zip. Even though the Gantt chart says 0%, I think we could probably put some percent because of foundation. But that's. I suppose the wall's not built.
Yeah, I think that's how we, so
That's all right.
through the chair, what we've done, we've broken that project up into a number of components because within the common fund, there is a number of different components that we've had to address. If you could delay it to having the conversation at the March meeting where it'll be made perfectly outlined to you to make a simple decision to move forward.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all for me.
Any more councillors? I put the motion, all those in favour? Motion passed. Item 5.8, plant replacement. The recommendation is the council note the proposed plant replacement report and endorse a state purchase program for heavy plant given the known lag in delivery. Moving second, please. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trimble, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation as written. No, that's the second.
You, Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I must say, I struggled with the report a bit. Just trying to get to grips on exactly what it's proposing, but I think what it means, and I can be corrected, that at this stage, we're not actually adopting or agreeing to any specific plant replacements. It is simply agreeing the principle of planning 2 years ahead because of the long lead times.
Through the chair,
So there will
exactly right.
So there will be a further report sometime in the next couple of months, presumably, with a 10-year plan and recommending which items to replace in the next 2 years instead of the next 1 year.
Through the chair, what we've tried to do is keep it as limited as possible to heavy plant. So as we and it's come about on the fact that we understand that there is a lag time in the delivery of these items. So if we were not to have it now or not prepared to purchase now, then when we need it is then a further 2 years before we get it.
And I understand that point, and I don't have a problem with extending how far ahead we plan for these things on account of those long delivery times. I just wanted to make sure that because it starts talking about in the tables on page 45, which vehicles in which years, and I just wanted to be clear in my mind that we are not today agreeing to any of those specific replacements.
There is a caveat, and that is that we would have to put a deposit down on these to move it forward. Should council resolve then not to, the risk is we lose that deposit.
Yeah,
I believe it's a reasonable risk, mind you.
and that was going to be my next question, that is this suggesting that we're going to pay these $10,000 deposits in the near future? And so who are we going to pay them to? Because we haven't gone through any tender process and we don't know what we're going to buy.
Through the chair, so the intention of the report is to consider a 2-year plan to purchase the large plant items. When it comes to operational, the operational plan, that will be the finalisation to endorse the 10K spend to enable the 2-year purchase.
Yeah.
This report is to get, because it is something new that councillors never had to do before, by showing you an example of what it could look like, including but not limited to. So the plant items selected may change when it comes back to council, but the rationale remains that we need to look further into the future with these larger plant items, so that we're not missing out. Our concern is if we say, don't provide for these items, and then in 2 years' time say, okay, we actually really need this, and then we've had the 2 years. So we're trying to prevent a 4-year delay.
Yeah.
So by providing you with a table of what it could look like, is the intention to say, okay, in the near future, it'll come back to council through the operational plan, which will then engage with the $10,000 spot fee, which could then be lost as a part of the operational plan when we get to that.
Definitely get that opportunity.
Yes, and I understand that the principle of planning further ahead for those reasons, and I accept that. I'm just not clear about paying the $10,000 deposits if we haven't called tenders and decided which is our preferred machine to buy. Who are we going to pay the $10,000?
Through the chair, the $10,000 is what we understand to be what's required. You will, as a council, get to make that decision on whether you do that in a standalone report into 23-24 if we head down that. But it's just providing a avenue to do that.
And that would say who we're going to pay it to, even if we haven't been through a tender.
It would be a part of
No, we would do that as part of the tender.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, no, it would definitely have to be part of the tender.
Yeah,
We're not proposing to replace this without going through an appropriate process through council.
Yeah, so So we adopted 2 year, well, you know, we have a look at 10 years, we adopt the next 2 years. And if, for example, it's tobacco or a truck or whatever, and so we then call tenders and say, okay, we understand that it's a 2 year delay before it can actually be delivered, but that's the point at which we put on the deposit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what we're doing is trying to see whether council has a appetite to lift that cost, which we've never done before. We usually have a plant replacement fund that each year we provide for and spend. We're saying, well, is there a better way to do it, knowing there's a dedicated lag?
Yeah, and that's fine. And yeah, if we've decided what we're going to buy, even if it's 2 years away until delivery, I don't have a problem with putting that deposit on that far in advance of delivery if we've made that decision. But my probably bigger concern with this is there's quite a few items. Well, we adopted the plant replacement program for 22-23. I think there were 6 items on the list from memory. And I don't think we've completed any of those replacements as yet. And on top of that, there were quite a number that were carried over from 21-22 to be done in 22-23, and I'm not sure that any of them have been completed. And so it concerns me that we are getting quite a way behind on our plant replacements, and that consequently, when we do replace it, we're going to find that the cost of replacement is a lot more than what was allowed in our allocation.
Through the chair, there has been significant purchases in plants to date. When we're at a position to get council to approve the plant we are choosing, a report will go back to council to say this is what we had carried over, this is what we provided for, this is what we have purchased, these ones are on that lagging delivery. So we'll provide all that information to you at the time we ask you to approve it.
And the ones that where we hadn't started the process of calling tenders and replacing. If you know, a year or two ago, we allowed 80,000 and we now think that the replacement cost is 120, it will show up in that as well.
Yeah, that report will be a lot more detailed when we're looking at it.
Just including the ones that need to go to tender, these are the last vote. This is the financial, everything else has been traded for. For it to tender or pay for, in terms of that, then that lag on delivery, but you're right, in terms of don't want anything setting up all once and then trying to turn it over again in 5, 10.
Well, that wasn't the point I was making. I was concerned that when we get to replacement, it's going to cost more than what we had allowed.
Yeah, given 22 points here, point taken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Page 45, 2/3 of the way down, we've got listed there 58, 59. They're the items I'm assuming we dealt with in 5.5. Correct. So I'm a little perplexed because we're saying that these are going to roll into 23-24. We're now at the 7th of March. We have a 21-day RFT issued for response from tenderers. And I would have thought that the purchase of this Western Star tipper and the Sloan dog trailer would actually occur in 22-23. And we've already, the operation plan allowed 300,000, but then I notice on page 45 again, we've rolled into 23-24 190,000, not the 200,000, and 100,000. Yet I would have thought that purchase should be completed this year for those 2 items.
Through the chair, so this Western Star and dog trailer combination is the report that has just been provided. If the tender comes through, it's one of the items that may require a $10,000 spot deposit, which if that tender is selected, we would be paying the $10,000 spot deposit in the 22-23 financial year. But we then have to wait until the 24-25 financial year for the delivery.
24, 25, or 23, 24.
24-25. So what we've provided in this report is in the column, it says the 23-24 restriction.
Right.
So we'll be holding that money over this financial year. We'll be holding that money back over in the 23-24 financial year for the spend to then occur in the 24-25 financial year. So this is what this report is starting to look at, the movement of what we'll be actually spending within the operational plan that year and what we will be spending and providing for future years.
Okay, so it's going to take us 2 years to get these back.
That's correct. That's why we have, yeah, that's why we have the delivery date now included in that, in that table as well, to indicate when we're actually anticipating on physically spending the money as opposed to putting the money aside for that future spend.
Okay, so the next part of the table, which is approved plan items on hold in reserve.
Correct.
So what does that mean? That we've given approval for a project amenity site ban, the plant replacement, but we're not going ahead, we're just holding with what we've got at the moment.
Yes, this was approved as a part of the 22-23 operational plan, or it may have carried forward. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but it has already been approved and it's just sitting on reserve at this time. So we don't necessarily know a delivery date. It's going to be held into restrictions until we put a paper up or then purchase the item, but the money has been sitting aside for it. At the time of collating this, we didn't know when it would come through, or when we're going to.
So we haven't issued an RFP for this.
Through the chair, again, we have sought inquiry from numerous providers, and there was a lag time in taking any sort of delivery on with the site van. COVID combined and a rush on vans, and certainly put a delay on those delivery of those top vehicles. That's where it does sit at this current point in time. There hasn't been a particular selection per se, but it doesn't commit us to having to go to a tended process other than getting quotations then for consideration of the most suitable type vehicle for that light van selection.
Well, okay. So we haven't purchased one. No, I gathered that. No, I realise that. It's in perpetual limbo.
But the other thing is then.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry to come back to click and go. But something else, following on from that query about the Sloan dog fellas, so 2/3 of the way down that page, it mentions plant 59, Sloan dog fella, and it's in the section that says items in 22-23 moved into 23-24. Then right down the bottom, the final bit of the table says items from 22-23 moving into 23-24, and it mentions plant 55, Sloan dog trailer. So I'm
Through the chair, plant 55 was the plant that was written off,
right.
and we went and received the money a while back. So it currently, it looks like it will be delivered this financial year, but it may just slip into the next financial year. So that's that item.
Thank you.
All right, I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Motion unanimous. All right, general business. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I was just wondering what happened with Hazel Grove Road in Valley Creek crossing, if there's been a change. What's in the field?
Sorry, yeah, through the chair, I've been meeting with the contractor. We have several contractors and we're used to receive the contractor, we're making the best for the job. So that is 12 months, that I understand, yeah, kind of, we just started creating pressure on him, but we kind of nervous situation, doesn't want to take risk. So we have even come into an agreement that once you open up to look at further deterioration as well, that we will take the risk and keep much real time.
It'd just be nice to see something happen there, because there's farmers moving stock and trucks going across, and we don't need to have an accident if there's more breakaway there.
Yeah, finishing, I don't think that certainly it's a position where it won't break away any further at this stage. However, I suppose the layout has been around now for continuation of the water flowing through it at the time. However, we are at a point now, we believe, as the work manager, also technical service managers outlined, that we think we have a contractor that feels a bit more comfort in terms of an undertaking.
And I'd messaged Chris the other day about the sewage smell down at Tarnar Road. Was there any outcome to that one?
No, I certainly did speak to staff and also had a look myself. I couldn't ascertain any particular issues. We had no report from any blockages or cited any concerns.
Work out where it's all coming from, isn't it?
Yeah, other than noting that, I know Ball was noted for a sense there for a couple of weeks back. I'm not quite sure whether the westerly wind may have transpired with some, breeze back into that end of town or what, but not emanating from the sewage treatment plant. It's like the sewage treatment operator and the like, and they're going to have a look at myself. So I've looked at a number of downhill manholes.
Can't find it.
No activity there. They would have had a joke or a bill.
Right, and my third and last, piece of business is, down at the Common. I know that should probably be in Common Working Party, but I thought I'd bring it up here while I've got the opportunity. There's an old well that's sitting at the top end towards the forestry office. And there's an opportunity that has presented itself through the Vic and the possibility of a grant for an Indigenous yarning circle. And we were overlooking at the Common and being part of the master plan. When I look down, there's no plan there. There's nothing that it's going to take away from. So I suggested to the Vic that that would be the ideal place for a yarning circle. Is there a possibility that we can get that old well removed and have the space there ready for the possibility of this yarning circle that has an applicable grant possibility attached to it?
Through the chair, we could certainly report back to the council with that go out. I'm aware of the grant. It is probably time sensitive, so I'm more than happy to bring a report back. At the end of the day, if you want to remove something that someone put there, I think that you possibly need to debate it, not necessarily need to do it. So I'm happy to take that on notice and prepare a report for council to consider. I'm aware of the grant, so we can add that to the report. Should council be a mind to debate that?
Can we do that now?
He hasn't got the report.
I would encourage council to consider a report before they get part of making that decision.
I don't know the history of the well or anything. I don't think any of us.
Oh, it was built by the prisoners. It was just yeah, it's a bit of an eyesore.
It's so well designed as a wishing well that you can't actually get the coins out of it.
Well, obviously built by people.
But I think it was built on the same location as where it used to be.
I think that's a rumour because there was never a well there. That was our BMX track.
Just put it through the chair. But
The historical facts are a big part of the.
That was where the current Common Dam was the original town water supply spot.
can I short track this by saying that maybe a report needs to be report back for you to consider?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll report that back to Mark.
All done?
This is
Katie.
I just like to thank the technical services area for the great improvement in the road from my place to the Pomby River. December, January, really, the technical dodge holds all the way, and then we went again a couple of weeks. That was terrific in comparison. So thank you.
No general business.
Councillor Pember. Councillor Tibbet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have three. The first is, I suppose, following on from councillor Graham. I've done a lot of driving in the last few weeks, and I have to say that Oberon is probably ahead of all the other councils in getting their roads rehabilitated. So thank you very much, Chris. It really is. I think we are far ahead of most of the councils that I've seen. Have we had any more water issues? Just wanting to see if is that all subsided or resolved?
Through the chair, noting that this is being recorded, I'm quite happy to speak in residential matter on that regard. So if you want to refer that to thought I'm more than happy to have that.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. I thought it might be the case.
Yep.
The other question, I just wanted to clarify, because I did read it in the minutes and I do apologise for being late, but the minutes, of the last meeting actually said that the design and the construction of the pedestrian bridge at O'Connell been approved by the state government. And I think it was on that basis we made the grant application for the path along the western side of O'Connell Road. I understand that it's now only the design that's been approved and the bridge is still up in the air, so to speak. So we have to, and is that correct? There has been no approval, and that may follow a design, but it may not.
Through the chair, we haven't been made aware that the bridge is going to be constructed at this point in time.
Do we know when the design is going to be completed?
I think it's a feasibility study, actually.
Well, it's not even a design.
It's a development design, it's an actual feasibility.
Okay, because the minutes do say committed to designing and building a bridge.
Through the chair, that is exactly what the state government announced when they did that.
I thought they did.
They are committed to it.
Yeah,
They haven't committed the funds to do it, but they're certainly committed to do it.
and they were reported.
But I thought committed usually meant money, but
I'm through.
It's like
You vote them. Get the sound far away.
all right, they're the only matters I have.
Councillor Hemming.
General business for me, Mr. Mayor.
I just back up all the people, all the councils who Peter Craig on the technical service director. I was had a couple of three people in the last few days said that their life has been made a whole lot easier by the excellent work in your place. So congratulations, and I appreciate all the work you've been doing and how hard you've had to work over the give you last 4 or 5 months ago.
Thank you. Certainly has been a
Some of the good ones.
good stop there, I think, hopefully, yeah, we'll get in there.
There. All right. There are no confidential reports. There's a confidential briefing. There is a confidential briefing, but we can do that after the. Stop recording. So I'll declare this meeting closed, and the next work committee meeting will be on the 6th of June, 2023 at 2 o'clock in the Oberon Council Chambers. You may stop recording for now.